What are my top 10 tips for keeping weeds out of the garden? Tip number 1 is to use weed mat or landscape fabric. And personally, to start with, I was really against this idea. However, I have changed my tune in using it in certain circumstances. Because we were breaking in new soil and there was so much weed pressure, weed matting actually made perfect sense in that situation. The other place that makes really good sense is around the edges of a tunnel house to stop the weeds creeping in from the sides. The upside to using weed mat is it's pretty readily available. It's relatively affordable, it's super effective, and it lets water drain through, unlike like a polythene which blocks the water completely. The downside is if you've got a big garden, it can be pricey. You do need some way of burning the holes in it. If you cut the holes, it will fray and you'll just end up with massive holes. So you need some way of burning the holes. A flame weeder or a propane torch, both of which work beautifully. And of course, you'll still need to lift it to be able to feed the soil. Number 2 is to add some kind of deep mulch. And so for this, I would recommend you put down a thick layer of newspaper or some cardboard first, and then add a thick layer of some kind of organic material. Hay and straw or pea straw are all really good options. They're relatively easy to get hold of, they're pretty cheap and affordable. They do break down pretty quickly, so you'll need to replenish this at least once a season. The other thing to be careful with these sorts of products is to make sure they haven't been sprayed with some kind of broadleaf spray. Any of the things that have got a pyralid in them, like Empiralid. Generally, if you ask a farmer if they've used a broadleaf spray, or it's commonly known as Grazon in the States, they'll be able to tell you if they have, and if they have, do not put that product on your garden. No hay, no straw, no manure of any animal that has eaten that. It will just destroy your garden. Don't do it. Number 3 would be to use deep wood mulch. Often you can get this for free or for really cheap from arborists that are around the place, and some municipal places will offer it for free as well. It can be pricey if you have to pay for delivery, but the upside is it's using a waste product. It does break down and build your soil, which will reduce how much you need to feed your plants over time. Make sure you avoid using wood mulch from eucalyptus or walnut, because both of these produce a substance that will stop your plants growing. I grew a garden, put in my tiny little seedlings, surrounded them with some eucalyptus mulch, and at the end of 6 months, guess how big my plants were? They had not grown 1 inch over 6 months. So let that be a warning to you. Don't use eucalyptus or walnut mulch in your veggie patch. Number 4 is to use some sort of compost, ideally a hot compost, which means it will have no weed seeds in it either. And if you put it on a good 10 centimeters, 4 inches or so deep, it will smother out most weeds that are trying to come through. If you've got perennial grasses that are doing your head in, put a good couple of layers of cardboard underneath that, and then put the compost on top. Number 5 is using a stale bed technique or some sort of tarping technique. To do this, you will cultivate the soil, give it a nice water, encourage it like you were growing some seeds in there, and then pop a tarp over the top. A silage tarp or old billboard signs, or even just some black polythene plastic will work just fine. And this extra warmth to the soil and that moisture will make those weed seeds just pop their little heads up, and then it's too hot and they can't get to the sun and they die. And so you can do this a couple of times if it's really important that you don't have any weeds in that bed, or usually just once will do. And then you can lift that tarp and plant your seeds in, minimally disturbing that soil, and be relatively sure that there's not going to be any seeds that sneak up. The upside to this is it's effective, and once you've got the products, it's incredibly cheap. The downside is it takes about 3 weeks to really work. However, it can be an effective way to keep on top of those rhizome-based grassy sorts of weeds like cooch or quack or twitch. Number 6 is weed eating the edges and keeping them clear, especially if you've got creeping little weeds that like to sneak in from the sides, those rhizome grasses being a classic case. There are some plants that you can grow around the edge of your garden that can help keep those out as well. Comfrey being one of them, and rhubarb is another one, and there's quite a wee list of different ones. I will put a link in the description below to a list that I've written of these plants that will help block those rhizome plants getting through. Number 7 is to use some chickens or some pigs to prep the ground for you before you plant. So get them in there and let them root it up, scratch it up. They'll eat the roots, they'll eat the plants, they'll eat the seeds. They dig all the way through, and this is a great way of minimizing how many seeds are left in the soil to end up with weeds in the garden. Number 8 is regular hoeing and regular weeding. If you can get your hoe or even one of those little weed hook tools that I've got. I'll put a picture up here for you so you can see what they look like. The idea is that you are disturbing that top inch or so of the soil at least once or twice a week, and that will catch the seedlings while they're still super tiny. In fact, often they haven't even broken through the surface of the ground yet, and that is the perfect time to disturb them, mump them up a wee bit, and they're not going to survive. This is even better to do at the very beginning of what's going to be a hot day. Number 9 is, if you can't get in there and hoe them while they're super tiny, at least get them out before they go to seed. As soon as a weed goes to seed, you're going to have weeds for Africa. It's just going to be everywhere. We have one, it's a landcress, and it grows up, and then if you don't get it out before the seeds develop, you touch it and it pops and flings seeds everywhere. I got one in my eye the other day. And number 10 is, don't let those weeds go to waste. If they do get away on you before they've managed to grow their seed heads, chop and drop them and leave them in place as a mulch, and they will stop other weeds from growing up underneath them. Some of the plants that have got deeper tap roots, like curly dock, or in fact most of the docks, and dandelion is another good one, they send their roots really far down deep into the soil and bring up a whole lot of minerals from down low. And so a great way of adding those minerals to your soil is to actually chop them off at ground level and then just leave those leaves on the soil. What are your top tips for keeping weeds out of the garden? Tell me about them in the comments below. I hope you found this really helpful. If you have, hit the like button and maybe check out some of these other gardening tip videos that I've got for you. I'll see you in the next one.